Hello and welcome. In this video I'm going to show you how we can use the chain rule for finding derivatives of functions. First, let me remind you the chain rule. For finding derivative of composite functions, we have to find derivative of the outside function and we have to multiply by derivative of the inside function. For example, suppose f of x is f of g of x. Here g of x is the inside function and f is the outside function. For finding f prime of x, first we have to find derivative of the outside function, f prime of g of x. F is the outside and derivative of f is f prime, and leave the inside. So derivative of the outside function is this, f prime of g of x, times it by derivative of the inside. Inside the bracket we have g of x, and derivative of g of x is g prime of x. Now look at this question. If f of x equals f of g of x and f of 5 is 4 and f prime of 5 is negative 2, g of 3 is 5 and g prime of 3 is 6, find f prime of 3. So f of x is given f of g of x, and we want to find f prime of 3. For finding f prime of 3, first we have to find f prime of x and then we replace x with 3. Based on the chain rule, for finding derivative of this expression, we have to find derivative of the outside function, f prime of g of x, times it by derivative of the inside, g prime of x. Now we want to find f prime at 3, so we substitute 3 for x. So f prime of 3 equals f prime of g of 3 times by g prime of 3. G prime of 3 is 6. So f prime of 3 equals g prime of 3 is 6. What is g of 3? If you pay attention, g of 3 equals 5. So this is 5. Now what is f prime at 5? F prime of 5 is given negative 2. So f prime of g of 3 is negative 2. If we multiply negative 2 by 6, f prime of 3 is negative 12. Now look at this question. If g of x equals f of 2x plus sine of f of x and f of 0 is 0, f prime of 0 is 4, find g prime of 0. For finding g prime of x, we need to use the chain rule. First, attention to here. F is the outside and the 2x is the inside. Based on the chain rule, first we have to find derivative of the outside. The outside function is f and derivative of f is f prime, and leave the inside. Then multiply by derivative of the inside. The inside is 2x and derivative of 2x is 2. Plus, now look at here. The sine is outside, f of x is the inside. Derivative of the outside function or derivative of sine function is cosine. So we have cosine of f of x times by derivative of inside. Derivative of f of x is f prime of x. Now we have to substitute 0 for finding g prime of 0. G prime of 0 would be, if we plug in 0 here for x, 2 times 0 is 0. So we have f prime of 0. When we substitute 0, we get f prime of 0 times 2 plus cosine of f of 0 times f prime of 0. But we have this information here. F of 0 is 0 and f prime of 0 is 4. So basically this is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So all of this is 8. So g prime of 0 equals 8 plus f of 0 is 0. So all of this is 0. Cosine of 0 is 1. Because cosine of 0 is 1, 1 times f prime of 0. F prime of 0, again, attention, is 4. So basically here we have 1 times 4, which is 4. So 8 plus 4 equals 12. So g prime of 0 is 12. If h of x equals f of x plus f of x, and f of 0 is 1, f of 1 is 4, f prime of 0 is negative 2, and f prime of 1 is negative 3, find h prime at 0. For finding the derivative of the function h, we use the chain rule. F is outside and this expression is inside the bracket, so it is the inside function. The derivative of the outside function is f prime, leave the inside for itself, and multiplied by derivative of inside. What is derivative of this? Derivative of x is 1. Don't forget to put a bracket. 1 plus derivative of f of x is f prime of x, and this is derivative of inside. Now we have to substitute 0 for x because we want to find h prime of 0. H prime of 0 equals f prime of 0 plus f of 0 times 1 plus f prime of 0. F prime of 0 is negative 2, so this is negative 2. F of 0 is 1, so this equals 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. What is f prime of 1? F prime of 1 is given negative 3. So f of 0 is 1 and f prime of 1 is negative 3. So this equals negative 3. Negative 3 times by 1 plus negative 2, which is basically negative 1, equals 3. So h prime of 0 equals 3. Now look at this question. If g of x equals f of x times f of x, and f of 0 is 2, f prime of 0 is 5, find g prime of 0. Again, for finding the derivative of the function, we use the chain rule. First, we have to take the derivative of the outside. Outside is f. Derivative of f is f prime, and leave the inside. But attention, for finding the derivative of the inside function, we have to use the product rule, because we have x times f of x inside the bracket. And when we have something like this, two functions multiplied by each other, we use the product rule. Let me remind you here the product rule. When we have f times g and we want to find its derivative, first we have to find the derivative of the first function multiplied by the second function, plus write the first function multiplied by the derivative of the second function. So for finding the derivative of the inside function, we use the product rule, and so the derivative of the inside function would be derivative of x, 1, times by f of x. So 1 times f of x, or f of x, plus write the first function, which is x, times by derivative of the second function, which is f of x, and derivative of f of x is f prime of x. Now we have to substitute 0 for x. So g prime of 0 equals f prime of, if we plug in 0 for x, here we have 0 times f of 0. 0 times f of 0 is 0 because x is 0. So all of the bracket is 0. Times by f of 0 plus x is 0, so all of this is 0. Now let's use the given values for f prime of 0 and f of 0. F prime of 0 is given 5 and f of 0 is given 2. 5 times 2 equals 10. So g prime of 0 equals 10. Now look at this question. h of t is given f of 2t, and f of 0 is 0, f prime of 0 is 2. We want to find h prime of 0. We use the chain rule to find h prime of t first, and then we plug in 0 for t to find h prime of 0. Here f is the outside and this is the inside. Based on the chain rule, first we have to find the derivative of the outside function. So we have f prime of, leave the inside, copy whatever is inside the bracket, and then we have to take the derivative of the inside. Inside the bracket again we have composite functions, composite of some functions. F is the outside and this is the inside. The derivative of the outside function is f prime, leave the inside. And now we are here. We want to find the derivative of, forget these two. Focus on here. The derivative of f of 2t is f prime of 2t. And don't forget to multiply by the derivative of the inside. The derivative of 2t is 2. So the derivative of h prime of t is this expression. Now we have to plug in 0 to find h prime of 0. H prime of 0 equals f prime of f of f of. If we plug in 0 for t, 2 times 0 is 0. So we have this times by f prime of f of 0 again, times f prime of 0 times 2. F prime of 0, if you pay attention to here, is given 2. So this is 2. F of 0 is 0. So this is 0. And because this is 0, f prime of 0 is 2. So this is also 2. F of 0 is given 0. So this is 0. And again we have f of 0. F of 0 is 0. F prime of 0 is 2. So this is also 2. So we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So it equals 2 to the 4 or 16. So h prime of 0 equals 16. I hope you liked this video and see you in the next videos.